articles, the New York Times reported that you booked massages with 66 different women over a 17-month period. Does that number 66 seem right to you?
I mean, I can answer. I don't think so for what me and my attorneys went through. But at the same time, you know, that's more of a legal question that I can't really get into details about. So you'll probably have to ask my attorneys and things like that to confirm.
You said that you had never disrespected a woman in your life and that you had no regrets about anything you did during these massage sessions. Do you still stand by that statement?
I think that question kind of, you know, triggered a lot of people, not just women in general, but a lot of people from this, you know, in the league, from women to males and things like that. And what I was saying is, yes, I never assaulted, disrespected, or harassed anyone. But at the same time, I do understand that I do have regrets as far as the impact that it's had on the community and people outside of just myself. You know, and that includes my family, that includes this organization, that includes my teammates in this locker room that have to answer to these questions. That includes, you know, the fan base of the Cleveland Browns. That includes males, females, everyone across the world, you know. So that's one thing I do regret is the impact that it's have triggered on so many people. And, yeah, it's tough to have to, you know, deal with.
Are you open to settling now? And what would it take to settle these?
Like I said, I just want to clear my name and be able to let the facts and the legal procedures continue to play out. So right now, that's all I'm doing is want to clear my name and be able to let all the facts come out in the court of law and be able to focus on that.
So, Mike, this is how it's going to go. This is how it's going to go until there's something definitive, either from the legal system or the NFL, with what they're going to do with Deshaun Watson. Will they put him on paid administrative leave? Will they suspend him for 8-10 games a year, even though the numbers continue to rise? Will some grand jury somewhere say, yes, what he did was criminal? Will he settle? Will he settle these cases? All right, but this is how it's going to go until something happens, because I don't know about you, I really haven't learned anything new. I didn't learn anything new from Deshaun Watson. It's the same kind of dance. On one side, if we're listening to or watching HBO, Real Sports, we get an account from the women who said they had this interaction, a very negative, very hurtful, in their minds, a very criminal interaction with Deshaun Watson. When we hear that, that's what we get. That's what we get. When we hear Deshaun Watson, he denies that he's ever disrespected a woman. He never assaulted a woman. I've never done anything. I want to clear my name. And so unless you can read minds and read hearts, I don't really know what you draw from this. If you take Deshaun Watson's side, maybe you know something about Deshaun Watson. Maybe you're a fan of the Cleveland Browns or a fan of football, and you want to see a talented player out there. If you take the women's side, hey, maybe as a woman you say, I can see that happening, or it's just too many names for this to be a made-up account. But this back and forth is not really taking us anywhere, and I think it's going to continue this way until we get something definitive from either side.
I mean, it's the ultimate he said, she said, or he said, they said, in this case. The thing about paid leave, and I remember this came up last off season, and you know, I don't have the NFL's rule book in front of me, but I wonder if part of the reason that paid leave is off the table is because he's not being paid. You know, I think paid leave is for when you start to get your regular season game checks. I remember having this discussion last year. There was some element to that as to why the league didn't act last year, why they haven't done it so far. So the commissioner's exempt list, I think, is specifically when you have an opportunity to start earning your checks. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like that's something that's been overlooked in the conversation about the league stepping in and acting right now. But, and everything you said was spot on. The thing that jumped out to me was the idea of him wanting to clear his name. And when I first heard him say that today, I asked myself, and it's the first time we've heard from Deshaun since his introductory press conference, tweets and Instagram stories aside, or posts aside, when I first heard him say he just looks forward to clearing his name, I asked myself, in this day and age, when it comes to the court of public opinion, and that's what he's referring to, is it even possible? And that's not a rhetorical question.
Right.
I mean it sincerely. Is it even possible? Because let's point out, first of all, and you alluded to it a second ago, Michael. You just alluded to it. For some, there is no clearing to do. For some, Deshaun Watson is the victim. For some, his reputation is completely intact. Okay? For others, no matter what, based on what they've read and based on what they assume, it doesn't matter how these 24, soon to be 26 lawsuits play out. They've already presumed him guilty in the court of public opinion. They've already assumed that he did something. Even when it comes, many people wrongfully like to point to the grand juries declining to indict as evidence of his innocence. That's just evidence that they couldn't find enough evidence to warrant criminal charges. And we can get into the New York Times reporting about all the things that went on behind the scenes when it came to what the prosecutor presented to the grand jury. But point is, and you and I went back and forth about this before, just as that is not proof of his innocence that they did not indict, we also can't say, well, he's guilty regardless. You understand what I'm saying? But many people will still presume his guilt based on the circumstantial evidence. So Michael, barring not only him winning all 26 cases in civil court, but in the process proving a grand conspiracy on the part of Tony Busby and his accusers, for some, there is nothing he can do to clear his name. He will be viewed as a serial predator. The takeaway that I have from today as I watched Deshaun Watson, who I'll remind everybody again, unusually, he insisted upon no non-disclosure agreement in the settlement talks. Usually that's standard, and usually you want a non-disclosure agreement. The reason why these things weren't settled from Jump Street, forget when the Dolphins got involved. The reason why these things weren't settled from Jump Street was he did not want a non-disclosure agreement. So what is so clear here, and not that I would expect anybody to get up and make an admission of guilt, but what continues to be clear here is that he has his version of the truth. That's not saying he's lying. That's saying he has his version of the truth. These women, some believe they're lying. They have their version of the truth. And he believes his version is the truth. Because otherwise, he sits there and proclaims his innocence. And again, he held up the settlement talks. And these things probably could be settled. He's got plenty. Michael, they would not realistically ask for enough money that would make him blink, given the money he just got. He can settle this right now.
That's what I'm asking.
He doesn't have to fight this. He seems to want to fight it. That's what's so fascinating about this.
Is it his version of the truth, or is it some type of hybrid? The one I said, you can't really learn anything from these conversations.
Yeah.
But I just, in the back of my mind, I just keep wondering, where's Deshaun Watson and where's Rusty Harden in these comments? Is this Deshaun just speaking for himself, or is this coaching?
I think it's a combination.
I felt like the point.
Combination, probably.
I felt like the point.
Hopefully
was
he's being coached.
when he
That's
said,
what he's paying Rusty Harden for, right? I hope he's being coached.
Okay. But you know what?
Or unless he's just paying Rusty Harden to say
coaching,
ridiculous things on the radio.
No, okay, but there's coaching for something that I want, and then there's coaching for something that you want.
Right.
So I think coaching is good if it's for what I want. I just wonder, like when he said, I want to just address that I have no regrets comment, that sounded like lawyer speak. Hey, and I regret what it's done to my teammates and the community and all this stuff. Like, okay.
It did. It
How does
sounded
he really
very
feel
PR,
about
like
it?
PR. Yeah. It sounded like he was trying to say the right
feel
things.
about it?
Yeah.
What does he
I think,
want? Does he want to?
But I don't
does
think
he want to settle?
No.
Or do they
that's
want
what I'm
him to
saying.
settle?
No, he never wanted to settle because him settling was, and I think most people see it this way, would be viewed as an admission of guilt. So another word is denial. Not only is he, and again, I'm not here to proclaim his guilt or innocence, but understand how I'm structuring this next sentence. Not only is he denying that he did anything, he could be in denial about what happened. I do believe, to answer your question directly, Michael, I believe everything he's saying, maybe how it's structured is polished and from a PR standpoint, but I believe he is speaking his truth. But really, at this point, Michael, and I said this before, I say it again, I don't know that the truth matters, because we'll arrive at more probable than not, or we'll arrive at, culpability or preponderance of evidence in civil court, I guess, and people could deduce the truth. But from the NFL standpoint, from a practical application standpoint, how's the NFL supposed to arrive at the truth? The NFL is going to arrive at an informed opinion, and that opinion. And what they do with that informed opinion, the action that the NFL takes, is not about whether your name needs clearing or not, whether you believe you did anything illegal or unethical or immoral or not. It's going to be not about your name, Deshaun Watson. It's about the NFL's name. Whatever the NFL does, whenever it does it, is not going to have anything to do with the truth. It's going to have to do with the fact that this is a bad look. Because whether it's 6 or 26, this is a bad look that continues to get worse.
Well, yeah, but I wonder if his motivation for not settling is, hey, the way it will look, or people might say that this is an admission of guilt. All right, that ship has already sailed.
Right.
One thing I've learned is that you'll be amazed, and you wouldn't, but I would say this to younger people. I'd say this to kids. I'd say this to high school graduates or those going into high school. You'll be amazed at what your own perception is of yourself, of your own perception of your actions is, versus what somebody thinks of what you're doing.
Oh no,
and
that's
it's
still applicable.
Often a disconnect.
Don't get it twisted. That's still very applicable.
Yeah.
for this adult. Yeah. That is still very applicable.
Oh, but I'm saying, like, you can't go about making decisions, because if you say, if you're Deshaun Watson, if you think at this point, hey, if I don't settle, then that will clear my name. That will prove something. No, because if you don't settle, you're still going to be suspended by the NFL. Whether if you settle 18, if you settle 22, if you don't settle any of them, the NFL is going to suspend him. That's going to happen.
But there's one other thing. Yeah, that's profound what you said. You can't go around operating and making decisions based on trying to, please the public. But there's the other aspect of this, and this is the part that, regardless of how you feel, regardless of how I feel, regardless of how anybody out there feels, there's a very real possibility that Deshaun Watson feels he's innocent. And even if settling it is the most expedient and the most efficient way of making this go away, maybe he just doesn't want to settle. It could really be that simple. It's like, nah, I'm not settling. And that doesn't sit well with people on the outside, because we've already drawn our conclusion as the jury in the court of public opinion. But if you're Deshaun Watson and you are accused of these things and you believe in your heart of hearts that you didn't settle, that you did nothing wrong, despite the advice of your agent, your lawyer, your marketing guy, or your family, your organization, I'm willing to bet that quite a few people already have encouraged Deshaun Watson to settle and make this thing go away. So to go back to your previous question, like what's Watson and what's Harden? I gotta imagine that if this is Harden, this is Rusty Harden, this is long gone. This is over.
Yeah.
I think Deshaun Watson is the reason why he's still standing up here answering these questions, because he believes that he did nothing wrong and therefore should not settle, even if settling would have made the problem go away before it got this big, and would make it go away now before he's looking at lawsuits into the next year or two.
Listen, there's so many things. Now, I'm going to exaggerate here to a degree, but you almost forget that we had a quarterback rankings. We had Brother Sims on last week talking about quarterback rankings, very entertaining, and he had Deshaun Watson at what? 13?
13.
Maybe?
I had him. What did I have him at? 7?
You had him at 7? At 7.
Yeah.
You almost forget Deshaun Watson's a quarterback. You almost forget that Deshaun Watson.
That's what I was
going to
say. He's not an actor. He's not an actor.
Yeah, you heard.
This ain't Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
I think his name has been said more in this context than it was his entire football career. Like, we've talked about Deshaun Watson year-round. That's not a good thing. When you're an athlete, they talk about you year-round, and it has nothing to do with what you've done on the field. Unless you're doing some great philanthropic project, it's usually not a good thing.
I think it started with the trade request. Yeah. But yes, you're absolutely right. He's been in the news more now than he was when he was balling out with Houston and even for that matter, Clemson. But I think it started really with the trade request. When he requested the trade after the 20 season, everybody was like speculating about where he would go, what they would get for him. He became a bigger story then, and then a different kind of big story in March of 2021.
I'm not rooting for this. Now I want to make this clear. I'm not rooting for this because I've spoken with Andrew Berry a couple times, and I really like him. I really like him. Went to college here up the road at Harvard, and we've had some really good conversations. You know, briefly. I'm not saying it's like some deep relationship, but it's good. I really enjoy talking with him. But Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski happen to work for one of the most unstable, irrational, erratic franchises in the NFL. Now, it's not the worst, but it's in the bottom 5 still. Until they prove otherwise, they're in the bottom 5. Maybe they're coming up. They got a lot of talent, but just based on the last generation, okay? Based on the last 20 years, I think they've earned that title. So if you're Jimmy Haslam, you're getting heat publicly. Jimmy and D Haslam, you're getting heat for all the things you've said about Deshaun Watson. You've backed him. You're not going to sell your franchise. And last year, they were disappointing. So not only did they bring in Deshaun Watson and guarantee him all this money, they have Baker Mayfield. He's still there. They don't know what to do with him. Hey, just go home. Yeah. Hey, take a paid vacation. Go home, Baker. It's mutual until we trade you.
Yeah.
And let's say the thing falls apart this year. Let's say Deshaun Watson is suspended. Let's say they go 8-9. Let's say they go 7-10. I can't say that that Jimmy Haslam and D Haslam, they're going to stick with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry through this. When it really starts to get thick and it starts to get hot, what I've seen from Jimmy Haslam is he blames somebody else. He ain't going to say it's on me. It's on you. See you later. This is such a big move. Like, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry went all in on a guy, and they put their careers on the line. Now, I'm not saying they'll be out of it forever, but they really put their careers on the line for this player. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.